Shannon, this is obviously the first bye week you've had, a chance to work with Carson and evaluate, what went wrong, what went right, not only from the first couple weeks, but particularly from the UF game. Just what did you see from him over the course of the last, week or however long it's been since you guys played Florida? How did he kind of bounce back from that game and work on improving?
I mean, the only thing that was really glaring in that game was obviously the interception. And if he leads him, that's a good play by the corner. And so if he leads him a little bit across the field, you got a good play. And you got to tip your hat sometimes when those guys make good plays too. And there was a few situations in the game where we just probably need to trust our progression a little bit and get through it. But other than that, it was a pretty solid performance. I mean, it was in the downpour. He was 8 of 16 on third down, which, those completions kept drives going. We were really smashing the ball up front, and so I never felt like through the course of the game that they ever really stopped us running the football. And in games like that where it's bad weather and the other team is struggling on offense, I didn't want to do something stupid backed up, and so just grinding out drives was kind of important to me to just get the win.
How much did the weather impact your approach /
I would say it's a good question. Typically the weather doesn't affect my approach, but when the other team's struggling like that on offense, I think when you combine the two, it did change my mentality a little bit, especially when the ball was backed up in our area, because I knew that their only hope was us to give them something stupid. And so making them drive the whole field was very, very important to me. Like playing complementary football on offense in that game, in my opinion, was very important to winning the game. Like I didn't go into the game thinking any way indifferent about the game until I got there and like it was raining. And so did I call the game a little different? Probably so. But I don't know if the weather, because I've thrown it 60 times in the rain before, and Carson does it really well in the rain. I don't think the weather really affected it as much as just the combination of that and the other team just not getting the first down.
You talked about being able to grind out the ball. Because obviously you saw the two drives in the fourth quarter with the run game just taking over. Just like being able to see that and the importance of being able to turn to the run game and when things may not be going well in the passing game, to know that you have that to fall back on and you're able to grind out those drives when you need to.
No, good question. I mean, we can beat you a lot of different ways. And so I think it's important as the season goes, because there's going to be times where you're just clicking on offense in every way. And there's going to be times where you're just off a little bit. That happens across the nation. You watch football, and there's going to be times where people just aren't on their A game. Winning those games where you're not on your A game is very important. Like if you want to be a championship team and you want to have a certain mindset, it can't be you just win when you play your best, because you're not always going to play your best. And so ultimately we're built in a way where we can win games multiple different ways. And so the biggest negative in that game was probably we got down there 2 or 3 times and kind of shot ourselves in the foot, and backed us up, and we had to settle for field goals. If we don't settle for field goals on those 2 drives, it's 21-0, and you feel pretty good with that going into halftime. And so settling for field goals probably, kept it closer than it should have been.
How much do you take note of the other team's offense when you're preparing for a game like this, where they've had the kind of success they've had in the first month of the season, putting up points and moving the ball themselves?
You're talking about this game coming up?
Yeah, this game coming up, yeah. Like, do you pay attention to any of that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, because the flow of the game matters, and playing complementary football, that term's used a lot, but ultimately how the game unfolds, it matters, and so when you're facing a team like Florida State, and we know what their capabilities are on offense, obviously that changes things. I mean, you gotta play to win the game by 1 point, however that looks.
So you kind of got to be prepared for different scenarios that you might not have to have been prepared for Florida.
Why would you say that?
Oh, I'm asking.
Why would you say that, though, Gary? Probably so. I mean, look, there's no, it's not a big something to say that they are struggling a little bit on offense, Florida. So yeah, I mean, when you face a team like we're facing this week, I mean, they're really good on both sides of the ball, and so we have to play really well to win the game.
Looking at their defense play, they play a 3-3-5. Just what challenges does that offer? What potential? I mean, I know you're agreeing with the game plan, but like, what do you see from that defense? What's unique about it? I guess
They just change things up a lot. You gotta be on point with your run fits. You gotta be on point with your pass game because the coverage is going to change quite a bit, and so they're going to keep your eyes, focused. And so they're going to change the look a lot, and they do a really good job of that. And so we got to be on point with all of our targeting and all of our routes. I mean, we have to be on point.
Elijah often got a little bit more involved in the passing game. It's for just good to see him start to get some opportunities, and then just the tight end room overall. How do you feel the group is done? Obviously, it's more than just a passing game.
It is. I mean,
just how you feel the group.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more than just the passing game. I mean, they're doing a really good job of blocking. If you go back and watch, Lofton got some good touches in that game. There were some opportunities for like Al to get, like the second play of the game, they got tipped, but he could have had a big one there. So there's opportunities that we're missing slightly for one reason or the other, and I think that as we go through the season, those things will start connecting.
The other night, fans stormed the field on Florida State. A few interesting things happening there. You got any fans storming the field? Funny story for us as a coach after you?
Not any funny stories. That's dangerous, really. It's more dangerous and scary on our end than people probably realize. When you watch that one was, I mean, it looked like to me that the ball barely was even hitting the ground. And they stormed the field, and the receiver was still laying on the ground. I mean, it's just, I don't know how you stop it, to be honest, but it is dangerous because when you're in the middle of the field, it's just like people are just coming at you, and they're just running full speed. So it's more of just trying to get back into the locker room than anything.
Jen, coming into, I guess, training camp, if you were talking about your offense, you probably would have maybe said JoJo is your best receiver, and you might have even said Jordan Love is your best running back. It's always been close. If this really is the week that they do return, what does their return do for you in terms of explosiveness? And you've had guys that replace them pretty damn well. Is it a challenge for you to kind of put it all back together?
No, not for me. I mean, competition is key. If you want people to get better and continuously get better, then people behind them and in front of them have to be really good at their job. If they're not, then they're not going to push themselves. And so those two guys are really, I mean, we all know what they're capable of, right? Now it's very important, and when they get those opportunities in the game, that shows, and it will. Those guys have done a great job, but ultimately adding depth and adding more people that can play at a high level is very important, because as you know, as you go through the season, very seldom does everybody stay healthy every game. And so we need key people at each position and multiple people to be able to play at a very high level. And we know JoJo can play at a high level. We know Jordan can play at a high level. Now getting those opportunities when they get back is crucial, and taking advantage of those opportunities is crucial, because they've had people in those positions making plays while they've been out. And so that doesn't mean they're not going to get those opportunities. They will. And as time goes, they'll get more and more of those opportunities. We're excited about getting those guys back.
And as an extension of that, so college football obviously has changed now. You got the playoff, with more teams involved. And you have a good football team like this football team is. You're not just preparing for 12 games anymore. You're thinking, hopefully that you're going to have even more than that. How does that affect your thinking along the lines of what you were just saying, where you got to get a football team through more than just a 12-game season, most likely, but be prepared hopefully for more than that?
Well, I mean, depth becomes more critical. And these off weeks that we're having, that's when you dump reps into a lot of guys that haven't played as much as some other guys have played. But I do feel at this point in my 3 years here that we're deeper than we've ever been, and that's an obvious statement, but I feel very comfortable about 2 and sometimes 3 deep at positions to go out there and execute the offense and execute it in a way that we can win a football game. So that's a good thing. Now, those guys, as the starters go, you know, those guys are going to get opportunities. And I don't get as many as a starter. The starter's a starter for a reason, right? When it's critical times in the game, those starters are going to be out there. But ultimately, when those guys that are the second team guys and third team guys, when they get in there, they make plays, that builds trust. So the more trust you build, the more opportunities you build. And so that's the key. And these off weeks are important too. We do good on good in these off weeks, and you see people making plays, but that just builds confidence with the coaching staff. So now when it's opportunities for those guys in the game, you don't feel bad about sending those guys in. You know they're going to go in and they're going to have the ability to make plays. And I feel like we have multiple guys in each position that we can trust. And so if a guy does go down, I think people are going to come in and we're not going to miss a beat.